We live in an age of overwhelm, our days filled with endless notifications, opinions, and decisions. The world never sleeps, and neither do our minds. This constant mental clutter is the new normal, a background noise we barely notice. Our phones buzz, emails pile up, and every moment is filled with news, social media, or playlists. We fill every empty space, listening, scrolling, watching, forgetting how to simply be present. We're drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. The cost? Clarity. When your mind is a chaotic marketplace, your own voice gets lost. Anxiety and directionlessness creep in, even as we stay busy. We've been conditioned to believe that busyness is a badge of honor, and multitasking is essential. But more activity doesn't mean more progress. Feeling scattered isn't a personal failing. It's a human reaction to a world not built for mental peace. This guide is about understanding mental clutter. It's about what happens when you finally allow your mind to become still. The first step is recognizing the noise for what it is. Only then can we begin to reclaim our attention. Silence is not emptiness. It's the space where clarity begins. We've been sold the illusion that a packed schedule equals a full life. We chase productivity, optimizing every minute, always consuming, always on. But constant activity isn't genuine progress, it's just the appearance of it. Our minds are so full, there's no room to process or reflect. We collect facts and headlines but lose the ability to connect the dots. True understanding requires silence and reflection. Over time, noise becomes our baseline, and silence feels uncomfortable. We rush to fill every quiet moment, fearing stillness. This creates a barrier to deeper truths and spiritual clarity. The more distracted we are, the more distant meaning and purpose feel. Our mental clutter is like static, drowning out what matters most. The first step isn't seeking more answers, it's creating more silence. Only in quiet can we reconnect with what's truly important. Let's make space for stillness. A distracted mind loses its ability to think deeply. We skim, scroll, and jump from topic to topic, training our brains for superficiality. We know a little about a lot, but lose the focus needed for real insight and creativity. Deep work, focused, meaningful effort becomes impossible when our attention is fragmented. Every notification pulls us away, leaving us drained and unproductive. We pour energy into shallow tasks, neglecting what truly matters. This impacts not just our work, but our understanding of ourselves and the world. We lose the thread that connects ideas, making us vulnerable to manipulation. A mind that can't think deeply can't think for itself. Our intellectual potential is lost to constant distraction. We wonder why we feel stuck or uninspired, not realizing we've starved our minds of uninterrupted time. The real cost isn't just lost productivity, it's the loss of our best selves. Deep thinking requires space and silence. Distraction takes a heavy toll on our relationships. True connection requires undivided attention, but we've become experts at partial presence. We're physically present, but our minds are elsewhere, lost in digital noise. This divided attention erodes intimacy and trust. Meaningful conversation demands full engagement, which is impossible when we're half distracted. Our loved ones feel they're competing with our screens, and often lose. Over time, emotional distance grows, leading to loneliness and misunderstanding. Children especially need focused attention. Without it, they feel neglected. We use technology to connect, but it often disconnects us from those right in front of us. We trade deep, real relationships for shallow digital ones. The hidden cost is the fraying of the bonds that give life meaning. We're more connected than ever, yet more alone. Reclaiming presence is essential for true connection. The deepest cost of a cluttered mind is spiritual disconnect. Every tradition teaches that inner stillness is key to wisdom and peace. In silence, we hear the subtle whispers of our soul and the voice of the divine. Constant noise creates spiritual deafness. We can't discern what matters most. We fill every moment, leaving no room for the sacred. Spiritual emptiness follows, not because the divine is silent, but because we've stopped listening. We chase fulfillment externally, but the real hunger is internal, a soul starved of stillness. Just as the body needs rest, the spirit needs silence to heal. Without quiet, we live on the surface, missing life's deeper currents. A distracted mind keeps us from awe, wonder, and transcendence. We lose peace, clarity, and a sense of belonging. Reclaiming spiritual well-being begins with reclaiming silence. Stillness is the gateway to meaning and connection. In our productivity-obsessed culture, we've been conditioned to view silence as a waste of valuable time. We see it as a void, an unproductive pause in an otherwise packed schedule, a sign that we're not doing enough. We treat it like dead air on a broadcast, something to be eliminated as quickly as possible. But this perspective, honestly, fundamentally misunderstands the nature and purpose of stillness. Silence is not a vacuum waiting to be filled. It's a space waiting to be entered. It's not an absence of activity, but the presence of an opportunity for our inner world to finally catch up with our outer one. It's the sacred pause where our soul is finally given a chance to come up for air. Imagine a deep-sea diver who spends all their time exploring the ocean floor but never returns to the surface for oxygen. Eventually their supply will run out, and their mission will end in disaster. Our minds and souls, in a way, operate just like that. We spend our days submerged in the deep, pressurized environment of constant information, endless tasks, and relentless demands. We're constantly taking in, processing, and reacting. Silence is our journey back to the surface. It's the essential, life-giving act of replenishing our spiritual and mental oxygen, without which we will inevitably burn out, lose our way, and feel ourselves drowning in the very life we're trying so hard to navigate. This shift in perspective, from viewing silence as emptiness to seeing it as essential space, is, honestly, transformative. It reframes the act of doing nothing as a vital and strategic discipline. When you choose to sit in silence, you're not being lazy, you're being restorative. You're creating the necessary conditions for your mind to untangle the knots of the day, for your emotions to settle, and for your spirit to find its equilibrium. It's in these moments of intentional quiet that we can finally hear ourselves think, moving beyond the reactive chatter of our surface thoughts, to access the deeper currents of our intuition, wisdom, and conviction. Silence is not empty, it's full of potential. Therefore, we must learn to treat silence not as a luxury to be enjoyed if we have extra time, but as a non-negotiable component of a healthy, sustainable life. It's as crucial as sleep, nutrition, and exercise. Just as we schedule meetings and appointments, we must learn to schedule moments of deliberate stillness. It is an act of profound self-respect and a declaration that our inner well-being is just as important as our outer productivity. Silence isn't the absence of something, it's the presence of everything we've been missing in our noise-filled lives. It's the space where we can finally breathe again. We mistakenly believe that breakthroughs and brilliant ideas are born in the whirlwind of activity, in brainstorming sessions filled with loud voices and flying suggestions. While collaboration definitely has its place, we often overlook the fact that the most profound insights rarely emerge from chaos. Instead, they surface gently in moments of quiet contemplation. Silence is not an empty field, it's fertile ground. It's the rich, undisturbed soil where the seeds of creativity, conviction, and truth can finally germinate and take root. When we're constantly bombarding our minds with external input, we're essentially paving over this fertile ground, making it impossible for anything new to grow. True innovation, honestly, requires stillness. Consider the process of revelation, both personal and spiritual. Truth rarely shouts, it whispers. It emerges not as a sudden lightning strike, but as a slow, dawning realization that can only be perceived by a mind that is calm and attentive. When your mind is cluttered with worries, to-do lists, and the opinions of others, you just can't discern these subtle but powerful signals. It's only when you intentionally clear a space, when you allow the sediment of your thoughts to settle, that clarity can emerge. Silence is the environment where God speaks, where our conscience is sharpened, and where the path forward, once obscured by fog, becomes clear. It's where we move from confusion to conviction. This principle isn't just spiritual, it's deeply practical. Artists, writers, scientists, and thinkers throughout history have understood the power of solitude. They've recognized that their best work comes not when they're surrounded by distraction, but when they've carved out protected time to be alone with their thoughts. This is because a quiet mind is a connected mind. It is able to form novel connections between disparate ideas, to see patterns that were previously hidden, and to access a level of creativity that is simply unavailable when the brain is in a state of high alert. Silence is the incubator for the ideas that change our lives and honestly the world. Therefore, we must begin to see stillness not as a passive state, but as an active one. It's the deliberate cultivation of an internal environment conducive to growth. When we choose silence, we're choosing to tend to the garden of our minds. We're pulling the weeds of distraction and worry, tilling the soil of our awareness, and creating the perfect conditions for something beautiful and true to emerge. We fear that if we are quiet, we'll be left with nothing. The reality is that if we are quiet, we'll finally be able to receive everything that has been waiting patiently beneath the surface of the noise. For those who follow a path of faith, there is really no greater example of the necessity of silence and solitude than the life of Jesus himself. The Gospels, frequently describe him withdrawing from the crowds, from his disciples, and from the constant demands of his ministry to find quiet places to pray. In Luke chapter 5 verse 16 it is stated plainly, "But Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed." This was not a rare occurrence or some kind of afterthought. It was a regular, intentional practice. He who was the Son of God, who carried the most profound purpose in human history, consistently prioritized time alone in stillness. This observation should really cause us to pause and ask a vital question. Why did Jesus, who possessed a perfect connection to the Father, feel such a profound need for solitude? The answer reveals a deep truth about the relationship between inner peace and outer purpose. He understood that you just cannot carry the weight of a divine calling with a crowded mind. The pressures of healing the sick, teaching the multitudes, and confronting religious authorities were immense. The voices of need, expectation, and opposition were constant. To remain centered in his mission and clear in his hearing, he had to regularly detach from the noise and reconnect with his source in the quiet. His solitude was not an escape from his purpose, it was actually the very thing that fueled it. If Jesus, the embodiment of spiritual strength and clarity, required these periods of intentional withdrawal, how much more do we? We, who are so easily distracted, so prone to anxiety, and so often confused about our direction, have an even greater need for this discipline. But we often do the opposite. When life gets busier and more demanding, the first things we sacrifice are the quiet, restorative practices that we need the most. We convince ourselves that we are just too busy to be still, too overwhelmed to pray, and too stressed to find a moment of peace. We are trying to run a spiritual marathon on an empty tank. The example of Jesus serves as both an invitation and a rebuke. It is an invitation to follow his model, to build into the rhythm of our own lives the same practice of intentional withdrawal. It is a call to value solitude not as a sign of weakness or antisocial behavior, but as a cornerstone of spiritual strength. It is also a gentle rebuke to our pride, which tells us we can handle everything on our own without needing to pause and recharge. The lesson is clear. If you want to maintain your purpose and peace amidst the chaos of the world, you must first find it alone in the presence of God. Understanding the cost of a cluttered mind and the value of silence is, honestly, the first crucial step. But knowledge without action remains just theory. It's, like owning a map but never taking the journey. The real transformation does not happen when we simply agree that we are distracted. It happens when we intentionally and consistently implement practices that create space. The journey from a cluttered mind to a clear one is not paved with grand one-time gestures. It's built brick by brick through small daily habits. These habits are the practical tools that allow us to translate our desire for peace into a tangible reality. They are the disciplines that anchor us in stillness amidst the world's relentless storm. Now, the idea of adding new habits might seem counterintuitive when you already feel overwhelmed. You might be thinking, another thing to add to my to-do list? But these are not habits of doing, they are habits of being. They're not about adding more complexity to your life, but about subtracting the noise that is already there. They are designed to be simple, accessible, and profoundly effective. You do not need to retreat to a monastery for a month or abandon all your responsibilities. You only need to commit to small, consistent changes that, over time, will fundamentally reshape your internal landscape. These practices are about creating pockets of peace in the life you already have. In this section, we will move from the why to the how. We will explore 3 specific, actionable habits that you can begin implementing today to systematically clear your mental clutter. These are not rigid rules but flexible frameworks that you can adapt to your own life and circumstances. The first habit is about starting your day with intention through daily silence. The second focuses on reclaiming your focus by adopting a one-input rule. And the third addresses the primary source of modern distraction by establishing firm digital boundaries. Each habit builds on the last, creating a powerful system for reclaiming your attention and silencing your mind. Remember, the goal here is not perfection, it is progress. You will have days when you struggle, when the noise feels overwhelming, and when you fall back into old patterns. That is part of the process. The key is to approach these habits with grace and persistence. Every moment you choose stillness over noise is a victory. Every time you consciously put down your phone to be present is a step in the right direction. This is not about achieving a permanently empty mind, but about learning how to consistently create space so you can hear what truly matters. Let's begin the practical work of decluttering. The first and most foundational habit for clearing mental clutter is the practice of daily silence. This is the discipline of intentionally starting your day before the world has a chance to speak to you. It is about claiming the first few moments of your morning for stillness before the deluge of emails, news updates, and social media notifications begins. Even just 5 to 10 minutes of dedicated silence can act as a powerful reset for your mind, setting a tone of calm and focus that will carry you through the rest of your day. This practice is not passive. It is an active choice to prioritize your inner world before engaging with the outer one. It is a sacred act of defiance against the culture of constant noise. Many of us begin our days in a state of reaction. The first thing we do upon waking is grab our phones. We immediately flood our minds with the emergencies, opinions, and agendas of others. We check our emails, scroll through our feeds, and absorb the anxieties of the world before our feet have even touched the floor. This habit puts us on the defensive from the very beginning. We start the day feeling behind, overwhelmed, and pulled in a dozen different directions. Daily silence is the antidote to this reactive cycle. It allows you to start your day from a place of centeredness and intention, rather than from a place of distraction and chaos. Implementing this habit can be as simple as setting your alarm 10 minutes earlier than usual. Before you reach for any device, before you turn on the news, simply sit. You can sit in a comfortable chair, on the edge of your bed, or wherever you feel at ease. You do not need to do anything special during this time. The goal is simply to be present with yourself in the quiet. You might focus on your breath, notice the sounds of your home waking up, or simply sit in the stillness. Your mind will likely wander, and that is perfectly normal. Gently guide it back to the present moment, without judgment. This is the training. This discipline is a powerful declaration of your priorities. It is a way of saying to yourself and to the universe, before I listen to anyone else, I need to listen to myself. Before I respond to the world's demands, I need to connect with my own spirit. Before I do anything, I need to hear something greater. This small investment of time at the beginning of your day pays enormous dividends. It reduces anxiety, enhances clarity, and builds a sense of inner stability that the chaos of the day cannot easily shake. It is the practice of creating a quiet center in the midst of life's storm. The way you begin your morning, honestly, it has a disproportionate impact on the quality of your entire day. Psychologists call this the priming effect, where, early exposure to a stimulus actually influences how we respond to everything else that comes later. When you prime your mind with silence and stillness, you're really creating a mental and emotional foundation of peace. This sacred start, it acts as an anchor, helping you navigate the inevitable challenges and distractions of the day with, greater composure and resilience. Instead of being tossed about by every wave of urgency and demand, you move from a stable core. You're not just starting your day, you're consciously designing its emotional and spiritual trajectory from the very first moment. Think of your mind like a still pool of water in the early morning. When you immediately plunge into your phone, it's like throwing a handful of stones into that pool. The water becomes agitated, the surface is broken, and sediment is churned up from the bottom. It takes a long time for the water to become clear and still again. By starting with silence, you're protecting that initial clarity. You're allowing yourself to gaze into the clear water, to see your own reflection, and to notice what lies beneath the surface. This protected time allows you to check in with yourself. How am I feeling today? What is my most important task? What do I want my intention to be? This sacred start does more than just calm your mind, it empowers you. When you begin the day by honoring your own need for peace, you're exercising your agency. You're making a conscious choice to be the master of your attention, rather than a slave to it. This single act of self-discipline builds momentum for the rest of the day. It becomes easier to resist distractions, to focus on what matters, and to make intentional choices because you have already started the day with a win. You've reminded yourself that you are in control of where you place your focus. This is a profound shift from a life of passive consumption to one of active creation. Over time, this morning ritual becomes a sanctuary. It's a predictable and reliable source of peace in an unpredictable world. No matter what happened yesterday or what challenges lie ahead today, you know that you have this sacred space waiting for you. It's a time to connect with God, to listen to your intuition, and to simply be. This isn't about adding another stressful task to your morning routine. It's about creating a moment of pure grace, a gift you give yourself every single day. The power of a sacred start is that it transforms your relationship with your day from one of dread and reaction to one of purpose and peace. The second habit to cultivate is the one-input rule, which is, honestly, a powerful strategy for combating the myth of multitasking. This rule is simple in principle, but let's be real, challenging in practice. Engage with one thing at a time. When you're reading a book, just read the book. When you're listening to a podcast, just listen. When you're having a conversation with someone, give them your full, undivided attention. This means consciously resisting the urge to stack inputs, to scroll through your phone while watching TV, to check emails while on a conference call, or to listen to an audiobook while writing a report. This practice forces your mind to move from a state of shallow, fragmented attention to one of deep, focused engagement. We've been conditioned to believe that multitasking is a sign of efficiency. In reality, it's the enemy of excellence. Neurologically, our brains just aren't designed to focus on multiple attention-rich tasks at the same time. What we call multitasking is actually rapid task switching. Every time you switch your focus from one thing to another, there's a cognitive cost. It takes time and mental energy for your brain to disengage from the first task and fully engage with the second. This constant switching process leads to more errors, reduces your comprehension, and makes your thinking shallower. It might feel like you're doing more, but the quality of your output suffers dramatically. Adopting the one-input rule is really an act of reclaiming depth. When you give a single task or a single person your full attention, you unlock a new level of understanding and connection. You start to notice details you would have otherwise missed. You forge connections between ideas that were impossible to see when your mind was split. Your work becomes more thoughtful, your insights become more profound, and your relationships become more meaningful. This is where deep work happens. It's in the uninterrupted, single-minded pursuit of a task that we produce our best, most valuable work and experience a state of flow and satisfaction. Start small with this habit. Choose one activity a day where you'll commit to the one-input rule. Maybe it's your morning coffee, no phone, no news, just the experience of drinking your coffee. Or maybe it's the first 30 minutes of your workday, where you focus on your most important task without checking email. Or perhaps it's during dinner with your family, where all screens are put away. By practicing this in small, manageable chunks, you begin to retrain your brain's ability to sustain focus. You're rebuilding your attention muscle, one rep at a time, and rediscovering the immense clarity that comes from doing one thing well. The third essential habit is creating intentional digital boundaries. Our devices, especially our smartphones, are honestly the primary source of the mental clutter that plagues our lives. They're brilliant tools, but they've been designed to capture and hold our attention, often to our detriment. Without clear and firm boundaries, we stay stuck in this state of perpetual availability and distraction. It's crucial to remember that our devices are meant to be our servants, not our masters. Creating boundaries isn't about rejecting technology, it's about using it on our own terms, in a way that serves our focus, our peace, and our purpose, rather than our addictions. Digital boundaries are just the practical rules you set for yourself to manage your relationship with technology. And this can really take many forms. It might mean designating specific times of the day to check email and social media, instead of letting them interrupt you constantly. It could involve creating no-phone zones in your home, like the dinner table or the bedroom, to protect your relationships and your rest. Another powerful boundary is to schedule regular periods of being completely unreachable. Turning your phone off or putting it in a drawer for a few hours isn't a sign of irresponsibility, it's a sign of wisdom. It gives your mind a desperately needed break from the pressure of constant connectivity. The purpose of these limits is to create space for your life to actually happen. When you're not constantly tethered to a screen, you begin to notice the world around you again. You have more time for hobbies, for deep conversations, for quiet reflection, and for those spontaneous moments of joy. You break free from the reactive loop of checking and scrolling, and you reclaim your time and attention for the things that truly nourish your soul. This isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. You're freeing yourself from the digital leash so you can be more present in your actual physical life. This is where true freedom is found. Don't wait until you're completely burned out to establish these boundaries. Be proactive. Start by identifying 1 or 2 small changes you can make this week. Maybe you'll decide not to bring your phone to bed tonight, or maybe you'll turn off all non-essential notifications. These small, deliberate acts of self-control are empowering. They remind you that you are in charge. The world will not fall apart if you are unreachable for an hour. In fact, you'll probably return to your tasks with more focus, more energy, and a clearer mind. The goal is simple: create limits that serve your focus, not your addiction. We've journeyed through the noisy landscape of our modern lives, uncovering the hidden costs of a mind that's constantly cluttered with distraction. We've seen how this endless barrage of information erodes our ability to think deeply, frays our most precious relationships, and creates a painful disconnect from our spiritual core. We've also rediscovered the profound truth that silence is not empty space but fertile ground, a sanctuary where clarity, creativity, and connection can finally take root. We've explored practical, tangible habits that can guide us back to a state of inner peace, one small, intentional step at a time. And now, we find ourselves at a crossroads, faced with a simple but powerful choice. The world is not going to get any quieter. The demands on your attention are only going to increase. The notifications will keep buzzing, the news cycle will keep spinning, and the pressure to stay constantly connected will remain. The external noise is just a given. So, the critical question is not whether the world will change, but whether you will. The power to reclaim your inner peace doesn't lie in controlling the world outside of you, but in cultivating the world inside of you. You must decide if you'll continue to let your mind be a chaotic marketplace, or if you'll transform it into a quiet sanctuary. This isn't a choice you make only once, but one you have to make every single day, every single moment. It's the choice to put your phone down when a loved one is speaking. It's the choice to sit in silence for 5 minutes before plunging into your day. It's the choice to do one thing with your full attention, rather than 3 things with a scattered mind. Each of these small decisions is a vote for stillness. Each one is a declaration that your peace is more valuable than your productivity, and your presence is more important than your accessibility. The power to change your life is found in these seemingly insignificant daily choices. If you're tired of feeling scattered, overwhelmed, and disconnected, then this invitation is for you. If you long to hear the voice of God, the whisper of your own intuition, and the deep needs of your soul, the path forward is clear. You don't need to add more to your life. You don't need another app, another book, or another piece of advice. What you need is less. You need to subtract the noise, to clear the clutter, and to intentionally create space. The choice is yours. Will you let the world's noise dictate the state of your mind, or will you choose the radical, life-giving path of stillness? Our culture has sold us a really compelling but ultimately empty promise, that happiness, fulfillment, and peace can be found by acquiring more. We're taught to chase more success, more information, more experiences, more connections, and more possessions. We kind of operate under the assumption that a fuller life is always a better life. So we fill our calendars, our minds, and our homes, hoping that the next edition will finally bring us the contentment we seek. But this pursuit is honestly a treadmill. The more we get, the more we seem to need, and the peace we crave remains perpetually just out of reach. We're looking for satisfaction in all the wrong places. The great spiritual truth, echoed across centuries and traditions, is that true peace doesn't come from addition, it comes from subtraction. It's not found in getting more, but in needing less. It's the process of gently letting go of the things that clutter our lives and our minds, so we can finally see and appreciate what truly matters. Peace is the natural state of a mind that's not burdened by endless desires, anxieties, and distractions. It's the quiet that remains when the unnecessary has been stripped away. This is a radical reorientation of our values, moving from a mindset of accumulation to one of simplification. Think about what you can subtract. What if you subtracted the need to have an opinion on everything? What if you subtracted the habit of comparing your life to the curated images you see on social media? What if you subtracted the endless stream of notifications that pull you away from the present moment? Each act of subtraction creates space. It's like clearing out a cluttered room. Suddenly, there's room to breathe, to move, and to think. You begin to rediscover the simple joys that were buried under the mountain of more, the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of birdsong, the feeling of connection in a quiet conversation. This is the invitation to a simpler, more profound way of living. It's a call to find your wealth not in what you have, but in what you can do without. The journey to a still mind is a journey of subtraction. It requires the courage to say no, to set boundaries, and to intentionally choose less in a world that is just screaming for more. When you embrace this path, you'll find a surprising and beautiful paradox. The less you hold on to, the more peace you will have. The less noise you allow in, the more you'll be able to hear. Peace is not a destination you arrive at. It is the home you return to when you let go of everything that is not you. This journey from a cluttered mind to a clear one can feel pretty daunting. The habits of distraction are deeply ingrained and the pull of the world is strong. But you don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. The longest journey begins with a single, manageable step. The most important thing you can do right now isn't to create a perfect, elaborate plan, but to take one small, concrete action. The goal is to build momentum, to give yourself a taste of the peace that's possible and to prove to yourself that change is within your grasp. So, what will your first step be? What's one thing you can subtract this week to make space for what truly matters? Maybe your first step is a digital one. You could decide to turn off notifications for one app that constantly steals your attention. Maybe you'll commit to a no phone in the bedroom rule starting tonight. Or you could schedule just 1 hour this weekend where you put your phone in a drawer and go for a walk without any audio input, just simply observing the world around you. These aren't drastic changes, but they are powerful statements of intent. They're small acts of rebellion against the tyranny of distraction, and they will begin the process of rewiring your brain for focus and peace. Alternatively, your first step could be built into your daily routine. You could commit to just 5 minutes of silence each morning before you do anything else. Just sit, breathe, and resist the urge to fill the space. Or you could practice the one-input rule during a single meal today. Put away all screens and distractions and focus only on the food and the company you're with, or the simple act of eating if you're alone. The specific action is less important than the act of choosing. Choose one thing, commit to it, and notice how it feels. Let that small victory be the foundation upon which you build. The invitation to stillness isn't a demand for perfection. It's a gentle call to begin. The world will wait. The emails, the news, and the feeds will all be there when you return. But your peace, your clarity, and your connection to the deeper things in life cannot wait. They're calling for your attention right now. Take a deep breath. Choose your first small step, and walk into the quiet where your soul has been waiting for you all along. This is not the end of the journey, it's the beautiful, hopeful beginning of a more present, peaceful, and purposeful life.